You make me want to be a better man.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
Real Chat Podcast presents the 100 Greatest Movies. Movie number 98, Amèlie.
Do you know what these people have in common? This is Amèlie. With the discovery of a simple childhood treasure, she begins a quest to fix other people's lives. And perhaps her own as well.
Everybody, welcome to episode 66 of the Real Chat Podcast, a podcast that promises cinephiles, whether here or abroad, the real world as we know it. One of my favourite all-time commentary moments was provided by the ever-colourful Ron Perlman of his commentary track for the decidedly odd film City of Lost Children, one of a number of wonderful collaborations by Marc Caro and Jean-Pierre Jeunet. Perlman starts his commentary on this film by saying something on the lines of, "This is the extremely peculiar opening of City of Lost Children," which is followed by the extremely peculiar middle section and then the extremely peculiar ending. It, in its own way, aptly sums up the unique world of Caro-Jeunet films which include such disparate fare as the cult hit Delicatessen and Alien Resurrection. Jeunet's fully distinctive flair for both story and direction is also fully on display in the incredibly charming and just as incredibly odd Amèlie, a film which rather unexpectedly became an international attraction of rather gigantic proportions, ultimately garnering 5 Academy Award nominations. And as with most Jeunet films, Amèlie is a completely quirky outing that combines the completely inventive and captivating production design with a decidedly anti-Hollywood approach to a standard 3-act, overly structured storyline. So, just to say it's a little bit odd at times would be a complete understatement. But anyway, my name's Adam Stolfo, and I'm joined here by Real Chat stalwart, Mr. Andrew McCaskill. So welcome back, Andrew. How you doing?
I'm good, but you sound like you're struggling to understand this one.
Yeah, just a little.
Yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher.
It's a little bit of a head scratcher, that's right. But I'm sure we'll get into that in plenty of detail.
I'm sure Matt's got some ideas for us.
Returning as well, Real Chat's funny man, Mr. Matt O'Neill. Matt, how's it going?
I want to see Alien Crap Resurrection.
No, Crap Erection.
Crap Erection. Okay. That sounds like a winner. No, I'm good.
That's not going to be part of the top 100 Alien Resurrection, Matt. So, I mean, I can get my feelings across, pretty openly. We might do it on Real Chat one day, but I'm not a fan of that movie at all. But
I think you might be adding another film to that, perhaps, today.
Yeah, I got that impression early on.
Yeah.
So anyway, Matt, welcome.
Bonjour.
And returning as well, Real Chat's newest member, Miss Penny Jelly. Penny, how's it going?
Très bien.
Yeah,
very good.
nice.
Yes, something. I'm not French, so I'm very good.
Do you feel like you're on your own a little bit with this film?
I do like it. But in watching it for this podcast with a critical eye yet again, it does pose some problems. But overall, it was a real treat to go back and revisit it.
Yeah, a common theme that I've already got from the team today is that when we all saw it in 2001, maybe 2002, we all had a lot more fondness for it than we do now. So would you agree with that, Matt?
Definitely, yeah. Watching it this time, and also when you just, you realise the date of the film when it was released, we probably, needed a film like that. Like we just had 9/11. Would that have been, was this before or after?
I was thinking about that. It was probably released before 9/11.
And also, so yeah, people seeing it on, especially because it was a French film, probably most people would have got to it on DVD. And also the Princess Di was only, as it featured in the film, was still pretty fresh.
Correct.
So it's a bit of a dark time, I guess.
Just quickly jumping ahead, Matt, just to let you know, it was released in France, Belgium and Western Switzerland in April 2001. was
Okay.
when it got its first screening. So
Right.
it sort of had subsequent screenings at various film festivals, followed by releases around the world, and it received a limited release in North America, United Kingdom, and Australasia later in 2001. Specifically for us, not until Boxing Day 2001. So that would have been after 9/11. Yeah.
I don't
So
think it caused 9/11.
Well, I don't know, because maybe if it was the film screening on the flight,
It's very grim.
yeah, maybe people were like, I can't walk out of this because I'm on a plane, but you're all going down with me.
Look, this episode is part of our 100 Greatest Movies series based on Empire Magazine's 2017 article of the same name. This is also the first foreign language film that we've looked at here on Real Chat as well. So Amèlie tells the story of a shy waitress played by Audrey Tautou who decides to change the lives of those around her for the better while struggling with her own isolation. Okay, so Andrew, what are your initial thoughts on this movie, and have they changed since you might have originally seen it maybe back in 2001?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think it's dated somewhat, definitely.
Yep.
Like, the whimsy levels are just out of control on this one. It's just like, it's like eating way too much, like, Fruit Loops or something. It's just like you're just kind of buzzing from it in the first 15 minutes, and you can never kind of, get back from there. So yeah, I was trying to kind of be all kind of uplifted and this is a sweet little film, but it was irritating the fuck out of me, I must admit. And it's interesting talking about how in dark times we need these kind of bright films. You think probably today that would apply as well. It's just we need lots of like bright and colourful films like this. But maybe I'm changing my mind after seeing that film.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's just a bit dated. I think it's just a bit too twee. It is a very strange film for some reasons I'm sure we'll discuss.
It's interesting saying post-2000 movies are dated now, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, this particular one, I just think it charmed. It got people off guard, and it charmed people, and it really kind of sold that whole kind of cliched French lifestyle to the Western audience.
It was very glorified, wasn't it?
It's almost like a sketch comedy.
It's a fairy
because
tale.
It's just like everything is so cliched, and I'm sure the French must fucking hate this film.
And Matt, you've made it pretty obvious already early on the show here, your initial thoughts, but would you like to elaborate on them for us?
Well, yeah, when I first saw this, I thought it was lovely. And this time, I was actually looking forward to rewatching it. And I think we can all agree it looks great.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's beautiful.
The cinematography is outstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, it felt like a student short films all kind of jammed together at the start, like how she introduces all the different characters, or the narrator. Everything just shitted me. That's.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's too early to be intelligent, but I just found it like really grating to watch this time.
Do you think it's almost like the French version of Crocodile Dundee for us? Like it's the whole world goes, oh, that's what Australians are like, and I just think that's what all French are like.
You don't know what's coming up in the top 100, do you?
I hope it's very far away.
It's number 2. It's Crocodile Dundee 2. Sorry.
That's not
Did Paul Hogan select this list, or?
No, man, it was a real struggle. It's like Wes Anderson on coke.
Yeah, right.
Isn't it? And
Yeah.
I think Royal Tenenbaums was around about the same time as this film. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was.
And we'd had
2000, I think.
Yeah.
Rushmore for me is still his best film, and it's a lot more subtle than the other ones. Royal Tenenbaum turns it up to Amèlie level
Right.
of whimsy. I think we'll go with the word whimsy. And I just didn't enjoy this at all.
And Penny, your initial thoughts?
Yeah, again, I was really looking forward to rewatching this, and I remember when it first came out, I really liked it, but I still prefer the Delicatessen City of Lost Children aesthetic, just because it's darker, it's edgier. I agree with you, Matt. It's a lot of short stories jammed together with one sort of single narrative. I still love the look of it. I still love really great sequences from it. But overall, it was a bit hard to kind of buy into. Again, I agree with you, Andrew, as well. It's like having a massive Toblerone chocolate bar, sort of aeroplane size, and then, expecting to go out into the bright sunshine of the world, and it's all a little bit too much. But I do still stand by the fact that I think this is a good film. I liked it, I enjoyed it, but, it's probably, I'm glad I've seen it again. It's probably going to go back on the DVD shelf.
I thought she was lovely the first time I saw it. This time I just thought she was incredibly annoying and creepy. Like, if this had been played by a bloke, it'd be a serial killer film.
Yeah.
Basically. Like, when she sat up on the chimney listening to people screwing, and then she looks over her shoulder and she's like, oh, there was 15. 15 orgasms tonight. Like, that's full on. Like, that's, Hannibal Lecter territory. Like,
You're not wrong. You're not
The
wrong.
sexuality of this film I find very strange. Like, it's because she's kind of asexual in a way. Like, it's kind of hard to believe in this, sugar sweet world of Amèlie that sex actually exists. Like it's almost shocking when there's like a rooting scene. It's like a comical, kind of fast forwarded, almost Clockwork Orange style kind of shagging scene, and it's kind of like, oh, they actually have sex in this world. It just seems like such a kind of sweet, cartoon world, and it just didn't really work, that aspect.
The film was a co-production between companies in France and Germany, and to date, it's the highest-grossing French-language film released in the United States and one of the biggest international successes for a French movie. So,
I think it is very palatable for an international film, let's say, for an American audience. I think it's extremely palatable. It's like a storybook, but yeah, I'm not sure if that, I think there are better French films out there for sure.
It was shot primarily in Paris, France, with a budget of an estimated 10 million. But here's the key thing, guys. It grossed 174.2 million worldwide. So that's over 17 times its budget. Yeah, this was a success.
It's funny
regardless.
that you said it's shot in Paris, France, because imagine it'd be bloody funny if it was just in some tin shed somewhere and it was just all just green screen, because it's just like... It could not be anything but Paris, France.
There were no shortcuts. I mean, I know there were visual effects in this film, but there were no shortcuts in regards to locations or anything.
Oh, there's some epic photography of just capturing like the Sacré-Cœur sequence is amazing.
The Cannes Film Festival selector Gillies Jacob described Amèlie as uninteresting, and therefore it was not screened at the festival, although the version he viewed was an early cut without music. The absence of Amèlie at the festival caused something of a controversy because of the warm welcome by the French media and the audience, in contrast with the reaction of the selector. So, yeah, it was just one of those films where it seems that the stars aligned for it at the time, and it was what people were wanting out of French cinema at that particular point in time. I mean, I think, because critically this film has done very well as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beloved film. It's definitely, it's in the Empire top 100 greatest films of all time. But yeah, it's just it's a crowd pleaser. I think
it'd be interesting to see if it's in Real Chat's top 100 greatest films of all time. So the director of the film is Jean-Pierre Jeunet. So he's a French film director and screenwriter known for the films Delicatessen, The City of Lost Children, Alien Resurrection, and Amèlie. He brought his first camera at the age of 17 and made short films while studying animation at Cinemation Studios. He befriended Marc Caro, a designer and comic book artist, who became his longtime collaborator and co-director. They met at an animation festival in Annecy in the 1970s. Together, Jeunet and Caro directed award-winning animations. Their first live-action film was The Bunker of Last Gunshots in 1981, a short film about soldiers in a bleak, futuristic world. So Jeunet's films sort of resonate with the late 20th century French film movement and allude to themes and aesthetics involving German expressionism, French poetic realism, and the French New Wave. And in 2004, Jeunet released A Very Long Engagement. It also starred Audrey Tautou as well and Jodie Foster, and chronicled a woman's search for a missing lover after World War I. And in 2009, he released Micmacs. I've never heard of this film, which was about a man and his friends who come up with an intricate and original plan to destroy two big weapons manufacturers. And he's done numerous commercials as well, as including a Chanel No. 5, featuring Audrey Tautou as well. So, yeah, what are some of your thoughts on Jean-Pierre Jeunet, Andrew, and his body of work as well?
Oh, he's a visionary. Delicatessen is a beautiful film. Like it's an incredible work of art, that film. When I think of him, I think of that film. I haven't seen City of Lost Children, but it's one on the list to see. But yeah, no, he's an incredibly talented filmmaker. He hasn't done a lot since Micmacs, I don't think. It's been a real kind of quiet time there for him.
Yeah, that was 2009, so the last 8 years or so. Yeah, no big projects.
Maybe he's working on a sequel to Amèlie. I think he's a very, very skillful filmmaker. But I don't know, just maybe after Amèlie, he's going to have his success and that's it for him.
I think there's something in that as well, Andrew. I think that a lot of these international filmmakers who have like a period of success, one that jumps to mind is Paul Verhoeven as well. He's had his block, right?
Yeah.
They don't get like a second coming within the Hollywood system. It feels that way to me anyway. They get their chance to like shine.
Yeah.
And then they're sort of like, I don't know if pushed out is the right word, but it's almost like, thanks for your contribution to our industry. We're going to stick with more of our own now. Is that a fair statement? Or?
Yeah, it seems like they always try to kind of poach, talented filmmakers from around the world to, like, John Woo is a classic example.
Yeah, definitely.
He's certainly had his run in Hollywood. There's definitely something in the fact that Alien Resurrection was a bit of a critical and commercial failure. So he was obviously tarnished by that, and I think he wanted to probably do something very commercial and very popular in Amèlie.
Yeah, agreed. Matt, thoughts on Jeunet?
I'm a fan of Delicatessen. I think that was quite striking when it came out. And like I said, I was a fan when this came out. I don't know, like I kind of heap these two together, like with Baz Luhrmann. Like I get the kind of feeling from that film, and I just can't stand that kind of stuff now. I think maybe it's just the age I'm at. Like
potentially. Yeah, I'm not a fan either.
And I'm kind of worried to go back and revisit Delicatessen because I remember really enjoying that, and it has been a while. Has anyone watched it again recently?
No, but I watched City of Lost Children.
Okay, and how was that?
I still really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think because of the darkness of it.
And that's what I'm hoping Delicatessen will be able to shine through with the darkness. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
no, it
absolutely.
Doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It really doesn't.
Okay,
thanks.
I was a supporter of you.
It shines through with its darkness. Maybe that's what this film needed. Maybe it just needed something a little bit twisted. I mean, I guess you could argue the mum dying was... It's because it was just so comical. It was just, yeah.
Well, counting how many orgasms are happening in Paris is probably the darkest moment for you.
Actually, maybe it is dark. Maybe we've all been looking at it wrong. Maybe rather than looking at it as a film that's kind of like lighthearted and whimsical, it's actually like a terrifying film.
About a sociopath.
It really does it really well.
More terrifying than Alien Resurrection, maybe, Matt, as well. So,
definitely.
Yeah. Penny, thoughts on Jean-Pierre Jeunet?
Yeah, I think he did better with Caro. I feel like that was when he split from Caro and did Alien Resurrection and then Amèlie, I think that probably he sort of lost his edge, perhaps.
Do you think the collaboration was more important than, in hindsight?
Yeah. I mean, who can say? I mean, people obviously go their separate ways for whatever reasons, but because I really enjoyed Delicatessen and City of Lost Children, in fact, owned both those films on DVD and just recently purchased Amèlie from a thrift shop for $2.99 because it was such a great bargain. I thought, that'll come in handy. I think I sort of stay true to his previous work. I did really like this film when it first came out, so it's funny that I've got such a strong reaction to it now, and I think probably it is because we're older, we're probably wiser, we're probably, it was nice to go back to that nostalgic part of, I guess, Paris, but Paris is not like that. I was there recently. It wasn't like that. I was there just after 2001. It wasn't like that either.
It's a glorified fairy tale version of Paris.
Yeah, which you sort of buy into that. I think that's it. You check any kind of expectation at the door. You realise that you're watching a saturated, highly saturated sort of sweet film with colour and movement, and you buy into that. But at the end, I kind of felt a bit empty.
I think, it's kind of like the Eiffel Tower itself. It's just like there's such a magnet for tourists. Like it's just like, this is France. This. If you're going to go to Paris, you got to go to Eiffel Tower. And I think a lot of people would think that if you're going to see a French film, you're going to see Amèlie. And I just think that's a bit sad because you're just missing out on really what is, French cinema. It seems like it's taken all the highlights of better films and packaged it into this really, this popcorn kind of piece.
Yeah.
It's just a bit empty as a result of that.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of get wrapped up in the idea that it's I mean, even though it was sort of set in the sort of 2000 era, it could have been set anywhere. There's no sort of real technology in it. There's a old video camera, there's an old television, but that's kind of it. There's no mobile phones. There's no kind of, like, everything seems really oldie, worldy, kind of like what Paris is. Like, Paris is an old city, but so I kind of like that sort of being brought along that, it's lovely just to sort of be free of like, I think sort of taking on that whimsy kind of effect. But the photo booth is amazing. Like I love all the elements of it, and I was really excited to watch it again, really enjoyed watching it, but then sort of just went, something's missing.
Yep, 100%. The writers of the film, Penny, what can you tell us?
So Jeunet wrote it, and it's a funny thing that he actually has a screenplay credit, and then there's also a dialogue credit.
Dialogue credit, which I've got in front of me here as well. And that was to somebody else.
Guillaume Laurent?
That's it.
I'm probably not saying that at all.
It sounds good to me.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah, go with that.
They actually have collaborated on a lot of other bits and pieces, and I think they sort of got together and he wrote Amèlie, and it didn't sort of go to plan. So it was sort of more around the dialogue of Amèlie was given to Guillaume, and Jeunet sort of had the story. And an interviewer once, I think, had asked Jeunet and said, it sounds like this Amèlie is a complete answer to Alien Resurrection. Is that the reason he made it? And he responded with, no, I've had these ideas in mind. I've had all of these little short stories in mind and all of these pictures and images, and then decided after Alien Resurrection to kind of really sit down and go, it's about a girl trying to bring joy into other people's lives. And with that, all of those short stories came together for him to actually then go on and write the character of Amèlie,
right,
who was originally going to be played by somebody else.
Yes, we will get into that as well, Penny. But yes, anything else to say about the Amèlie screenplay?
He was stated as saying after he was working on a very long engagement, he was asked about the process of adaptation, and he did say that writing a film based on another medium was so much easier than writing, sitting in front of a blank page, as I think we've all done on many occasions, sitting in front of that blank page and thinking, who is going to be interested in a girl dipping her hand into a bag of grain? Now, I really like those parts of the film. It's taking the minutiae of everyday life and really sort of bringing it to the surface. So that's what I do really buy into with this film. But yeah, I think he was saying that who's going to be interested in this? And then I think 20 years on or 17 years on, not very many people in this table are interested in that.
And I think that already in our conversation, we've sort of worked out that Amèlie just seemed to be more a movie of its time, appreciated in its time, and it's not aging very well.
I think she's definitely on the spectrum as well. I know I don't mean that as a joke. Like if you look at this film as like she's autistic.
She removes herself from society and doesn't want to get involved in relationships.
Completely. And you think of all the little quirks she's got going on and stuff, and she's very much in her own world. Even like when she's having sex, and like she's
her face.
Yeah, she's just like not like social. There's definitely a social awkwardness to her, and like Penny said, she's removed. And I think nowadays we're definitely more on top of that kind of stuff. My wife's a school teacher. There's children in every class now who are autistic. It's not. It used to be like when we were kids.
It'd be like one
it's something
kid.
as evolution's going on that's happening a lot more.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, that's true. And I think this was before. So if this came out now, it'd be looked upon more as a study on autism, perhaps. Or
do you think it was intentional to have that kind of?
It's hard to say.
I mean, look at her on the front cover. I mean, she looks like Jim Carrey's brother or sister, like from Dumb and Dumber or something like that. Like she looks autistic to me right now. The way she's just staring at me, like she's definitely. I think it would definitely be pushed that way now if it came out today.
That's interesting.
I wonder if that's actually what we are all responding to, because I really wanted to love this film. And I said to friends, I'm watching Amèlie, and they're like, oh, it's such a great film, and it brings so much joy in the memory of it. And revisiting it, you're like, oh, that's right, that's what happens here, and that's the reason why this is happening, and oh, we're about to see this bit. But overall, she is a bit weird.
Yeah, I think that might be wrong to say that. But
not autistic people aren't weird.
Yeah, well, yeah. I guess we're all maybe more Asperger's. Let's go with that. She's a bit Aspie.
But back then, it would have been just like she's a quirky French girl.
Exactly, yeah. And that's what it was looked upon. She's just she's a bit quirky or something like that. But now we can identify a lot better that people are on the spectrum. And I think that's especially when you look at her childhood as well, like some of the way her father treated her and things like that. Like, it's just unrecognised.
One thing that's a little harder to criticise, though, Andrew, is the cinematography in this film. Bruno de Bonnel, I think is how you pronounce his name.
Yeah,
sounds good.
I think it's the hero of the film, really. I mean, it's the style and the look of the film are incredible. Like, you can just watch it. Really, it's the enjoyable part of watching the film for me is just the technical way it was shot. I mean, just the camera movements, the crash zooms and tracking shots. I mean, it's a stunningly made film.
What about the color?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly saturated. Very very rich color scheme. I'm not sure if I didn't get it in the research looking at if he was influenced by it, but he must have been influenced by a film by Kieslowski called The Double Life of Veronique.
Oh, okay.
Has anyone seen that film? It's like very, very similar. It's a very unique kind of color palette that he's got in this film, and it's very similar to that film there. Just the certain kind of shades of color that they use. And Bruno, I think from reading, he's very into his color grading. He spends a lot of time manipulating the image to get it to a certain look. I think to the pain of a lot of the producers who think that it's too full on, but ends up being like, I think he shot a Harry Potter film, and the producers said, "We can't see anything with your color grade. Can you pull it back a little bit, Bruno?" And then it ended up being one of the most celebrated Harry Potter films for its look. So yeah, he's an incredibly talented cinematographer, and yeah, I think this is probably one of his strongest films, or his the one to look at anyway.
Do you guys like the way this film looks?
Oh, I think it looks beautiful. Yeah, it's like getting back to Wes Anderson, like little portraits, little like pieces of art, like framed.
Yeah, a lot of Genet's movies can be watched that way as well. So,
but
it's a bit of a staple of his.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
Penny, you like the way it looks?
Yeah, absolutely. If it wasn't filmed in this way, it would be an entirely different film. I think exceptionally creepy. I think probably take out the music and put in a different score and take out the color, and you've got yourself the perfect horror film. And yeah, I was reading that Bruno doesn't like to use the color blue at all in the film, which if there is any blue in there, it's added in post. So it's, very rich greens, yellows, reds. A gorgeous film to look at. And that's why I was so happy to dive back into it, sort of put my hand back in that bag of grain of color. But yeah, ultimately it sort of came out empty. And I feel like such a traitor saying this about Amèlie, because it was such a seminal film of my early year 2000.
Well, I think that we were at that age, perfect age for it when it came out. It was kind of like a, quirky French film, and I think it was the right time to get charmed by something like that. And I remember everyone loved it. Like, it was just, a joint thing that Amèlie is this kind of, you got to see this film, warm and fuzzies and all of that. And I remember we've just been hardened by life, and we're just kind of like...
Potentially, yeah.
Well, I think it's like that. Was it the Grand Budapest Hotel? Is that the name of the film?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of? Like, all of a sudden, like all the oldies, all our parents and stuff went to the cinema to see that film.
Yeah.
And came back just saying, oh, how wonderful. That's just so quirky. And it's like, no, there's been 20 films before it which were better than it and were just as quirky. And, they came out 20 odd years ago now. And this is one of them.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like this is also one of those ones, because it was French, that all the parents would have gone to see and be like, oh, this is just such a wonderful
I went
film.
and saw this French art house film.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like they're really living on the edge. But,
no, it's true.
yeah.
Like, there are these films that come out every now and again that just everyone stops and sees. Like, it's like Wes Anderson. Before that, a lot of people, older audience members would have just gone, "No, this is too weird for my liking." But then something like Grand Budapest just kind of connects.
With this, they'll see Amèlie, but they won't see Delicatessen. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Also, the film's heavy use of narration is not a great way to tell a story. I mean, we all know this from any kind of sort of film background, or you pick up any kind of screenplay book. You don't use narration to propel your story forward, but this relies so heavily on it, which is so weird for such a visual film.
But that was kind of its time as well, I think, because I was thinking back to that. We had Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels came out a few years before it. Snatch came out a couple of years after that, the Guy Ritchie films, and they were heavy on the narration as well, which kind of reintroduced that kind of idea. And suddenly all student films had narration. You know what I mean? Like, I have a narrator.
That's so true. Like, I was going to say that period of cinema, there was like a real kind of burst of stylistic films. You think about Fight Club. Remember Run Lola Run? Like
absolutely.
Such a great film.
That was a great flick. I mean, and being a film student at that time, it was just like you just lapping this stuff up, and it was just like, oh, you can do that with a camera, and it was all about the style of what you can do with a camera. So it was very much Amèlie as a part of that kind of period of film, and Lock, Stock as well. Just all the effects, and
It really was a block of time, wasn't it?
yeah, and now that has dated, I think. I mean, some of these films like Run on the Run, I don't think have dated, and Lock, Stock probably hasn't either. Oh, maybe a little bit.
Lock, Stock. I rewatched Lock, Stock recently, and I loved that film when that came out, and that was tough to watch. Snatch, not as much. That's still pretty. That holds up. But I remember I was at uni doing film when this came out. And Lock, Stock, and Snatch, and that's every single script that everyone was writing. It was like, find me a Cockney narrator. Like, you know what I mean? Everyone's on the lookout. Does anyone know a Londoner so we can get them to narrate the film?
And put a quirky French girl in there somewhere.
Audrey Tautou plays Amèlie Poulain, I think is how you pronounce her surname. I'm going to keep going to Penny for confirmation here.
Is it because I'm wearing a stripy t-shirt?
Yes, that's right. You're the most French-looking of all of us.
You're
here
eating
today.
a baguette.
So you touched upon this as well before, Penny, but the part of Amèlie was written specifically for Emily Watson. She wanted the part, but she had to decline it because she didn't speak French and had already agreed to be in Gosford Park in 2001.
That makes me think that maybe it wasn't going to be set in France.
It was still going to be set in France, I believe, but even I think Janae was just like, oh, hang on a second, like she's not as convincing with her French accent. It's not going to carry as well.
Doesn't look French either.
Yeah, that's got something to do with it.
But Andrew, what are your thoughts on Audrey Tautou?
Audrey Tautou? Très bien. No, iconic role for her. I mean, she kind of disappeared really a bit after. I mean, I think she's been, steadily in French cinema, very kind of, popular, studio pieces in French cinema. But this is her role. This is the big one for her, and it's iconic. You think of her face because the camera is so close in it, and in her eyes,
so many close-ups,
big brown eyes. I mean, it's just like she's almost like a cartoon character in this film, and her performance does make the film. And I agree with what everyone's been saying. It is, when you reflect it, is a bit strange performance. She's a strange asexual presence in this film. So, I just don't quite know. I didn't really understand the character at the end of it, but I don't know if that's her fault. It's a very technical film, so she as an actress had to kind of, weave around the camera and watch her mark, basically. So it's a little bit of a stilted performance, maybe.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying about the performance. 100% I agree. But to look at, though, she is pretty, easy on the eyes.
She's stunning girl. Yeah, definitely.
She is. And I was I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I was thinking about that a lot of the time throughout this film.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good sign, to be honest.
Well, it doesn't give you much more, does it? She's just supposed to be this really sweet, charming, French girl. And it's kind of, that's all you really get. I think a lot of people would think of that French girl and she'd pop into their heads. It's like, or people think there's a whole bunch of Audrey Tautou walking around.
Indeed.
Champs-Élysées.
Yeah. Matt, thoughts on Audrey?
Yeah, just so saccharine, wasn't it, in this film? But I think that's what it called for. So, guess she gets the thumbs up. Is that how that works? Her haircut shitted me. Let me tell you right now. That, like the back of it.
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
I do.
That's how annoyed I was while watching this film. And I was like,
but that's the things that you start to focus on, and that's such a bad sign when you're watching a movie. I think.
But
I don't know.
She just has like a Audrey Hepburn kind of feel to it, doesn't she? No, I mean,
why? Because they're both Audreys.
Well, I guess maybe that's it.
Brown eyes.
Yeah, and like petite. That's a French word, isn't it?
Petite. Do you remember that?
Pretty
Like
nice,
girls, like there was like an Audrey. There was an Amèlie look that everyone had. Probably more girls than boys, but like it was like a big deal after that film came out. Everyone kind of dressed in.
Well, this is it. This is the birth of the hipster. This film, I reckon.
That's a big call.
This film is basically Instagram, like, isn't it? Like, they've used
nice analogy.
I think it's got all the photographs. They've used every fucking filter you can think of to put them up there, and it's just constant. And
I like that, Matt.
I come up with the gold sometimes, don't you worry. But I think that's also is one of the reasons, perhaps, that it's a hipster film, like all the old technology and stuff like that, which I love because I lived it, because I'm old.
Yeah.
But I think it just shit me up the wall. It was just like watching someone's feed, some 20-year-old's feed on Instagram, trying to be hip and cool.
And Penny, what were your thoughts?
I really like her. She's completely engaging. Yeah, and I watched the special features on the DVD, and it's she's actually getting her hair cut for the film, and she had quite sort of long, dank hair before Amèlie, and then she sort of has it cut, and there's a couple of different shots of the way that they've styled it. So it is definitely part of the film. It's the stylized sort of part of the film. She's engaging. She's beautiful. She's very pleasant to watch, and you have to buy into that. Which I was so surprised that she wasn't the first choice. I thought this was a film written for her.
It has
feels
that feel
like
about it. Definitely does.
Yeah. So I can't imagine anybody else obviously being in this film and playing that character of Amèlie. And I think that she's so iconic. It's a really iconic film. Like as soon as you say the word Amèlie, it completely brings that to mind. As soon as you say Audrey Tautou, it completely brings this film to mind.
I apologise in advance to anyone who's listening in regards to the pronunciation of all these actors' names, okay? But Matthew Kassovitz plays Nino in this film. The love interest...
Don't all girls find guys on their knees in train stations attractive?
Ooh la la.
Yeah. Like, I'm finding it difficult to sort of decipher how I sort of felt about, his character and his role within this movie, other than just, we've got to put a love interest in there.
Yeah, well, I think that's the core of the film, isn't it? It doesn't really want you to think too much about these characters. It's just like they just want you to be, swayed by the charm of the whole thing and the tweeness of it, and just go with it, basically. And I think he does a serviceable job with what little he has. Like he's has a nice kind of quality to him, even if he works in a sex shop and fondles people in a ghost train. I mean, you get past that. And then you think, he's probably a nice guy despite all of that.
Matt?
I think I've been on that ghost train.
Many times.
Many times.
Were you working on the Ghost Train?
Yeah, maybe.
What are your thoughts on Matthew Kasevich?
The most Frenchest looking person
Definitely.
that's ever existed on the planet, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
And Gerard Depardieu.
Yeah, as soon as he looks up from the photo booth, you're just like, that guy's French.
Hello.
Yeah. I'm surprised he's not playing an accordion. Like he could have been the guy that's just playing the accordion the whole time. He's fine, isn't he?
He's very serviceable in the role that
Exactly.
he has.
Yeah.
That's the best compliment you can give him, I think.
Yeah. I think that's 4 stars. We'll see you guys next week.
Matt, come back.
Bye.
Penny, do you have any thoughts on good old Nino?
Yeah, I liked him. He's fine. He's in the film. He's the one point where Audrey starts to get involved in her own life, and I found it actually interesting as part of the film was going along. We're so on board with Amélie's worldview, and then all of a sudden it flips to him and him needing to get off work at 4 and working in the sex shop, and we're following him for a while. He's outside of Amélie's sort of worldview. So I kind of that really took me out of it for a moment. But his performance is great, and he's a director in his own right as well. He directed The Hate.
Yeah.
So I find that a nice contrast.
Isn't he?
Yeah.
So it's interesting that they chose I think they're all friends, these guys, and maybe it was just kind of like, you want to hang out with us on this shoot, kind of thing, like in between directing films, because he's a very talented filmmaker.
Yeah, he didn't throw me at all. Like, he looks French and he works on a ghost train, and I was sort of wondering, why doesn't he recognise her when he's on the ghost train, and why doesn't, there's sort of some questions that were brought up around, who he is and what he does, but yeah, I thought he was fine. Any
members of the supporting cast, because there's quite an extensive list of them, guys, so are there any that sort of jump out that you feel that you want to, bring forward at this stage?
Dominique Pignon.
Of course.
Every single other Jeunet de Caro film he is in.
Oh, he appears in all of them.
He appears in every single one of them. And in City of Lost Children, he appears many times. He's a clone.
Which one's he?
Joseph, the tape recording guy.
The jilted lover.
Yes. All right. Yeah, no, I know him because he's in Outlander. I don't know if anyone watches.
Oh, I just downloaded that for my mum.
Yep, he's in that.
Legally.
There you go. He features in that in this second season.
He's like another iconic French actor. Like he's been around for decades.
He's got an amazing face, like this rubber-faced weirdo.
He was anyone see Diva? He was like the bad bald guy in Diva. He's just been in so many films. He's in Frantic. He pops up. He's just like,
that's right.
Has a little cameo in the bar, and he's just always in a French film basically, and he's just got such a great charisma.
If it's French, he's probably been in it.
Oui.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, no, he's always a welcome addition to any film, and I thought he was great in this with his little role.
Yeah, he's cute.
Yeah.
I mean, creepy but cute.
What about Lucien as well? He's played by Jamel Debbouze.
Oh, the guy with the one arm and in
the fruit store.
Yeah, I really like him. He's got a great face as well. and just a really cute kind of character. Probably on the sort of similar lines as Amélie as well, which is probably why they get along so well.
Yeah, he was a sweet character. Yeah, and then there was the asshole owner of the grocery store, who kind of felt for him by the end. He was kind of
the character changed.
Yeah,
well, he was being gaslighted by Amèlie. Like, he'd go into his house and the handle would be around the wrong way, and
which is slightly sadistic.
I love that. I love that so much.
I think there's a lot of sadistic things in this film, but I did like the when she goes to the greengrocer's his parents' house, and she meets the father who's got dementia, and he's been punching holes into the leaves and stuff.
Yeah.
But just his interaction with her, because it's like he's got dementia, but they're both on the same level.
Yeah,
I thought that was quite amusing.
Do you guys have a favourite scene in Amèlie? One that stands out?
I think I might be stealing Penny's here, but it's the phone booth sequence, or the scene when the guy sees the tin box with all of his childhood memories in it. Maybe I'm not. I'll just keep going. But yeah, I think that was probably the most powerful scene for me.
I'd agree with that.
Just the performance of that actor and the little flashbacks, and just, we've all been there where we've just kind of, I've just moved back with my parents, so I'm starting to see lots of nostalgic things everywhere I look. So, you can kind of relate to that when you kind of see something that takes you straight back to your childhood. I thought that was, very effective.
Matt?
It's a tough one. Like, I think if we were doing this when we first originally saw it, I'd have heaps for you. But I'm just going to say I quite like the bit, only because I feel this pain watching football on the internet. But when she keeps pulling the plug on the the antenna when the guy's trying to watch the football.
Oh, you felt the frustration, yeah?
Yeah, because like now watching it on the internet, like when it starts to buffer, and the amount of times it's buffered, and then it cuts back to the game, and someone scored, and you're just like, oh, for God's sake.
That's why you hate this film, isn't it? Probably. It's tapped into something right there.
It's tapped into the whole Instagram hipster and the football thing. That's what's just brought this hate on.
Penny, do you have one?
Yeah, it's funny, Andrew, that you say that you were going to steal mine. It's weird. I'd forgotten that scene in the film when I've only just watched it last week, but because the film is made up of so many vignettes of stories. Like and some of those complete standalone, and some of them carry the film forward. So that is actually the inciting incident of her finding the box of memories, and that sort of sets her on that quest. But I like every time she sort of picks up a stone and puts it in her pocket. I think the sound of that, or her hand dipping into the grain. But I do really like the gaslighting because it sets something up. She has an idea. It sets something up. And you don't see the payoff until later. So her removing the slippers or looking at the slippers and the size of it, you don't see that until much later in the film. So I kind of like the threads of my favourite scenes.
This might be slightly controversial, but this is one of the things that really annoyed me. And I did speak briefly with Penny about this yesterday in watching the film this time. One of my biggest beefs with this film is the fact that it's in French. I found reading this movie on the subtitle track on the Blu-ray extremely distracting. That I was constantly moving from what I was supposed to be looking at on the film down to the subtitles.
Well, you should have been listening in French class, Adam. That's the moral of this story.
I know, because I probably would have enjoyed or understood the movie more clearly if it had been in English. And I know that's completely controversial. It's just something that I don't normally notice when watching a foreign movie. It's not something that I think about. But boy, was I going like, I am moving up and down here. Like, as in, I am missing stuff.
I think because it's such a visual film.
Snappy movie as well.
Yeah.
It's very quick sometimes. And there are certain scenes which like bang, bang, bang. And I was like reading, and sometimes the subtitles even give you a description of what was written on a billboard or what was written on and just being aware of it, it was frustrating me. I knew that I wasn't enjoying the movie as much as if it was in English.
Well, it is basically like a feature-length cartoon, this film. Like, so, I mean, I imagine, watching a cartoon with subtitles would be bloody irritating because all you want to do was just watch the visuals and just go on the roller coaster, and you don't want to be reading whilst you're doing
so
it.
I found it very distracting, as in I was often going, I missed something like visually because I was like reading, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have seen a lot of foreign movies over the journey, and it's just like, it's not something I think about. At this time, I was thinking about it all the time. I'm like, boy, this is really annoying me.
It's because of such heavy narration at the start. It's the narration over the top of visuals, so you are having to read so much of it.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it. That didn't bother me at all. It's funny that you said that, because I was like, that could have annoyed me, but I think I just sort of completely immersed myself straight back into it again and was just along for that ride. But yeah, you saying that there's so much text, you're absolutely right. But it's because of the narration.
No, I mean, I don't have a problem with the reading part. But, I don't know why I'm even talking now.
You wasn't going anywhere.
Look, this film made me all for Brexit. Let's put it that way. After watching it,
well, it is actually funny because I mean, as Andrew was saying, I'm sure the French don't like this film because it's so saccharine and it's not a great portrayal of Paris.
What's an Australian movie that makes you feel like that?
Is it Crocodile?
Yeah,
it's a great film, guys.
That's not a film.
I think with where we are right now, with everything that's gone on with #MeToo and stuff like that, and even before that, like even a few years before, I think this film's very difficult to watch, just for how people are going about trying to make love work, like the guy with his recorder hanging out in the cafe. I mean, no means no, or no means no. And I think that's something else that made me feel uncomfortable with this film. I mean, she's a manipulative bitch, isn't she? She's just going around trying to put everyone together and stuff. And the strange thing is, in 2001, we thought that was cute. I think now
not
we
so
don't.
much.
No.
Yeah.
And rightly so.
Interesting point, definitely. Just a bit of trivia here from Amèlie, guys. Whenever this film was shot on location, Jean-Pierre Jeunet and the crew would clean the area of debris, grime, trash and graffiti, so the real settings would match the fantastic nature of the film. This was an especially difficult task when it came time to shoot at the huge train station, as you can imagine.
There's something false about that, like...
Not pure?
Well, it's just... I don't know. I mean, I can see why they did it, but it's just kind of like Paris is Paris, and they kind of make this kind of sugar-coated version of it as kind of like, it's not Paris, you know?
Well, even Janae says that. He said, this is not a tourist commercial. Don't come to Paris thinking it's going to be like this. There is just...
Well, it's too late. You've sold it.
I've gone twice.
It's a moving bloody travel catalogue, this fucking thing.
The travelling gnome was inspired by a rash of similar pranks played in England and France in the 1990s. In 1997, a French court convicted the leader of Front de Libération des Nains de Josine or something.
I believe that.
Or let me make it let me make it a bit more clear. The Garden Gnome Liberation Front of stealing over 150 gnomes. The idea was later used in an advertising campaign for an internet travel agency.
Yeah, that's probably what I heard that. There was something used for
Yeah, it's
marketing.
very familiar.
Amélie's dad's gnome was given to the actual owners of the two windmills, apparently. Unfortunately, the gnome was stolen from that place, which is really unfortunate.
He's on adventures around the world, though.
Yeah, I like to hope so, but like it's disappointing. When I read that, I was like, oh, that sucks, you know?
I think that entire cafe has completely now been overrun by tourists, and people are not going there as a cafe experience. They're going there as an Amèlie experience, which is, you know, what happens in...
Did you go there?
No.
For any particular reason, or just didn't even think about it?
I had a lot of other things to do in Paris than go to somewhere and take an Instagram shot of me sitting in the Two Windmills Cafe. You know,
Stealing domes.
Yeah, well, it wasn't me, Match. Come on.
In regards to the DVD, Blu-ray or Ultra HD releases of Amèlie, there was the 2002 DVD, which is what you've got here, Penny, and the 2009 Australian Blu-ray. Here's an interesting thing, though. The film has no overall worldwide distributor, but Blu-ray discs have been released in Canada and Australia. The first release occurred in Canada in September 2008 by TVA Films. This version did not contain any English subtitles and received criticisms regarding its picture quality. In November 2009, an Australian release occurred. This time, the version contained English subtitles and features no region coding. Momentum Pictures released a Blu-ray in the UK on the 17th of October 2011 as well. So I haven't seen this. Apparently, if you're a fan of the movie, though, this is the one to get. Okay, so the 2009 Australian one does not have much on it. It's probably similar to the DVD here, Penny. It's got like a short making of, outtakes, a photo gallery, and a storyboard comparison. Does that sound about?
Yeah, that's exactly
same
what's
stuff?
on this one. Yeah, and it's cute to watch, but it doesn't sort of propel you into the screenwriting or the filmmaking world too greatly.
That if people are a fan of this movie, they've got to go to the UK and get the 2011 one. It's got like an audio commentary with director Jean-Pierre Jeunet. The Look of Amèlie, about 13 minutes long. Fantasies of Audrey Tautou. I think that is actually on here. It's just some outtakes of her. I think it's just like a short 2-minute compilation.
Yeah, and there's a compilation of just her quirky kind of looks, which made me think, you know, Janae really loves Audrey.
Yeah.
I just heard Matt shudder in the corner there.
Matt, come back.
There's also like a Q&A with Jean-Pierre Jeunet and a Q&A with him and his cast as well, and an intimate chat with him. So I think the big difference here, Penny, is that they got Jean-Pierre Jeunet to participate in this UK Blu-ray because he's all over it. There's a whole bunch of features with him, you know? So that's the difference between the local one and the UK one. If you are a fan of the movie, that would be the version to get by the sound of things, but I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Andrew, Christmas is coming up.
I'm hoping it's the bottom of my stocking.
In regards to streaming, Amèlie, Netflix US only, apparently, Penny. It's definitely, you can't watch it here in Australia on our services, unfortunately.
Not currently, no.
No. Andrew, the composer of Amèlie is Jan Tiersen.
He is.
It's a great opening there.
He likes the accordion.
Oh, of course he does.
He does.
Imagine this film without it.
Jeez.
I know.
Look, the music in this is very effective. You know, like it's a classic element of this film, and that music was the soundtrack was incredibly popular when it came out, and you hear it, still hear it in cafes today. Like it's kind of one of those classic themes that pops up every now and again in cafes around the place. But look, it's very effective, but and also very cliched as well. It's like, could it be any more French? Frenchy French, you know, it's
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, but like a bit of reading about him, and he's not really a film composer as such. He's kind of more of a prominent musician in his own right, and most of the well-known pieces in the film are from one of his earlier albums, which the director heard and fell in love with.
He actually wasn't the first choice. Did you hear about this?
I knew that it wasn't the sound that he was looking for originally, but was there someone else he had in mind?
He wanted Michael Nyman to score the film, but was unable to get him, apparently. So then he was given a CD of Jan Tierson's work, who composes in a similar minimalist style, but with an extremely quirky, eclectic mix of instruments. So he obviously said, like, oh, I can see this working, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, he hasn't done too many films, a couple of films after this and before it. But yeah, I think everyone seems to think he's a film composer, but I think he gets quite a little bit annoyed by, a little bit disappointed with people claiming that he's a film composer when he's, he's just a muso, mate. All right?
Yeah, indeed. But like, there was a soundtrack release, and it did really, really well as well on the charts. And I've got some of the stats about that here. But yeah, so there was a 20-track release of the score, is that right? Or the music? A combination of both? I
don't know the full details on the release, but I think it was just the one release, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was the 20-track release, but apparently the French got 4 bonus tracks, apparently.
as an apology for the film.
Yeah. It's just the national anthem, though. 4 times.
Because they'd buy the soundtrack too, wouldn't they? Because they would have... Oh, I must get Amèlie.
Morocodion.
But how's this? Yeah, according to Billboard magazine in 2002, up to that date, in the US, the soundtrack had sold 50,000 copies, went double platinum in France, and sold 1.1 million copies worldwide. So
yeah,
it did exceptionally well. So people obviously connected to the music of this film.
Well, I think it's like... It's your one French film, Amèlie, and that's probably your one French CD that you'd own in your collection if, you weren't a traveller.
And it got awards as well. Like in 2001, it got the World Soundtrack Award for Best Original Score of the Year. And then 2002, the Caesar Award for Best Music Written for a Film. And then it was also nominated for a BAFTA Award for Best Film Music, the World Soundtrack Award for Soundtrack Composer of the Year, and Phoenix Film Critics Society Award for Best Original Soundtrack of the Year. Now, most film soundtracks, including a lot of the soundtracks that we've looked at here on the show, Andrew, do not win awards.
Yeah.
Although they don't get acknowledged like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
it'd have to be certainly a unique film, a standalone film that would get such, recognition. And this certainly falls into that.
100,000 copies, platinum in Canada, for example.
I mean, you could listen to this music and, away from the film, and it's quite... I mean, I'm sure Matt would disagree, but
that might be a key thing here, actually.
Well, it's not married to the film. It's not married to the action in the film. It's just it's almost like like a cartoon. The music for that, so it'd be very tricky for a film composer to write to, I reckon, because it's just such a, I don't know.
If you've got a patisserie, this is the soundtrack you want played in the background.
On loop,
you know what I mean? Yeah. And no one's going to say, they'll just think this is like French-sounding music.
Yeah.
Which is, it's the last thing I'd call this soundtrack is original.
Yeah.
Because it's just French music, isn't it?
I listened to it again recently at a French-themed dinner party. So it worked very, very well.
Exactly.
And it was actually quite lovely to get back into that sort of piano and accordion kind of world again.
I think the theme is really... It's a great little theme.
It's sweet.
It is very sweet.
But it's a bit
How
too
much more interesting would this film have been if the soundtrack was Tubular Bells?
It would have been more effective.
I think it would, yeah.
It would have been darker, that's for sure.
I reckon someone should get onto that and do that.
They made a musical of this as well, which the director didn't want to give up the rights to, but then decided, yeah, why not?
I heard about that.
But doesn't feature any of the music of Amèlie, which is such a heavy part of the film.
It's a bizarre choice, isn't it? Like, why would you bother? It doesn't have the music from the film.
Yeah.
Matt, here's a new little segment here. Your little segment, mate. Marketing for Amèlie. And just before you get into that, Entertainment Weekly named the film poster of Amèlie one of the best on its list of the top 25 film posters in the past 25 years.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it? I mean, the colours are quite striking. And basically, apart from the Japanese poster, everyone used the same image.
Yeah, right.
For the most part, that I mean, maybe not as close up of Amèlie, but definitely that red and the face. We've talked about her face already. The funny thing is, the Japanese one is just like a red post. It's just her, like, I think, sat in a bed or something, just a red background. Looks pretty plain. Doesn't speak to the whimsy of the film, which, when you think about it, Japanese TV in general looks pretty out there. Like, it looks pretty crazy. So this film's just probably like a serious film for them, you know what I mean? They probably wouldn't have been moved by the craziness of it at all. But there wasn't much, like, as far as marketing is concerned, Australia, funnily enough, was like one of the only countries to get onto it, which I thought more would have, which is the postcard.
Right.
Because I would have thought that the whole gnome postcard, like a photo of the gnome or something, could have been left around, like, cafes, things like that, in the lead up to the film. Australia was the only one who got on board with that, but unfortunately the postcards themselves were just like images from the film, almost like screen grabs, which is a shame, because I think they missed out there. They could have really exploited that gnome traveling around the world aspect, because that was quite a cute part of the film, and easy to print and hand out.
Seems like a bit of a missed opportunity.
Yeah, but other than that, there was nothing. Funny thing is, though, when I was looking up computer games, there is actually it's nothing to do with it, but it's very it's an app, and it's called Amèlie, and it's about a woman who works in a cafe, who's looking after the cafe for her grandfather, and you have to like serve people food and stuff. So
Right.
it actually has nothing to do with the film, but for whatever reason, they've decided to have
A tie-in.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Like they've tried to wedge this, like, it's a girl called Amèlie who works in a cafe. And it's like, and that's the game. So yeah, I was kind of because I thought this would be the one film that would have absolutely nothing.
Maybe it's the only way they would have got any interest in this app.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I mean, but even then, the apps come out quite a few years after this film, when you think about it, because apps haven't really developed that much for maybe the last 5 years more so. Like,
that's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so it's an interesting kind of attempt of a tie-in by someone out there. But yeah, other than that, I mean, you got to remember this is an international film, so especially for like in like the US, UK, and Australia, where we are, obviously, just in case you forgot. Not much money is going to be spent on the marketing for a film like this. You're generally going to go and see it at Nova or the Dendy or Kino or something like that. So
definitely,
marketing wise, like something like Titanic, that would be a different story altogether.
Very different. Yes. So guys, Amèlie, sequel, prequel, remake, reboot, or leave it alone? Andrew.
I think you're getting a pretty obvious answer from the table here. It's a one-off, isn't it? It's let's leave it alone. Let's put it next to the the strawberry tats and enjoy it when we need to indulge.
We've said that as well about the films we've looked at already, Andrew, with Stand By Me and Raging Bull as well. Everyone said leave it alone.
Yeah,
So,
I'm sure one will pop up sooner or later that needs to be redone.
Matt?
Yeah, I agree. I could see it being made into a TV show of some sort.
Oh, I don't want to see that.
No, neither do I. But, following Amèlie around trying to get people to fall in love. I don't know.
Penny?
Well, it's funny you should say that, Matt, because there was a TV show called Pushing Daisies, which lent very heavily on the style and the theme sort of Amèlie. So it's not an actual remake, but it's getting close.
Quite a bit of a
good
homage.
show, was it? It was a good show.
Yeah, it's quite good. It had darkness to it as well, which I quite enjoyed.
Yeah, it was a bit of a homage, I think.
Yeah.
Amèlie, so
in terms of doing anything else with this film, I was glad to see it again. I don't want to see it in another sort of form. I think it's absolutely done its job.
in regards to the awards for the film, this is where it surprised a lot of people, I think, or maybe not at the time so much, but its big one was it was nominated for an Oscar, Best Writing Screenplay Written Directly for the Screen.
That's right, but it was pipped at the post by Gosford Park, ironically,
Yes.
which Emily Watson was in, which I quite like.
She was probably feeling quite good at that.
Yeah, exactly. Made the right choice.
It was also nominated for Best Art Direction, Set Decoration, Best Cinematography, of course, Best Sound, and Best Foreign Language Film as well.
Sure is.
But it still didn't win.
And the Golden Globes as well, it was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film as well. So the Rotten Tomatoes website certifies Amèlie fresh with a score, Matt, of 89%, 157 positive and only 20 negative.
Well, this is since grandmas have been able to use the internet and then sign up to things.
Honestly, though,
Yeah.
do you think that that's ridiculously high?
Oh, I think at the time, probably not. Like, I think that's probably a fair reflection when this film came out.
Right.
I just, watching it this week, yeah, no.
Yeah. And has an IMDb score as well, very high at 8.4 out of 10, where it's also ranked as number 80 in their top 250.
Jesus, that's high, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Most people would love this film, I would think. So I guess that makes sense. But, geez, I mean, that's probably higher than Godfather, isn't it?
The top 100, guys. So here's the big one, okay? Do you think that Amèlie deserves to be there, and is number 98 a fitting position for it? I'll start, okay? No. This film is not...
Tell us how you really feel, man.
I don't think that this film is in the top one. I'd have probably probably 500 films in front of this movie, okay? So, like, this is the first film that we've looked at here in this little series where this is out of place. There are lots and lots of films I would put into 98 ahead of this one. Okay, Andrew?
100 films is a lot, but, certainly from my personal experience, I think I could find... I could find 99 more, not 100 more.
Matt?
I can understand why it's in there. I just hope there's other French films that we're going to come across along the way because...
Doubtful.
I don't think so.
Yeah, and I think that's the real crying shame then because there's so much better that they have to offer.
Penny?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. I think it does belong in there, but we are sort of speaking to a very particular set of parameters with the top 100 with this list. I would put City of Lost Children in there ahead of Amèlie because I think it's an edgier, more interesting film. It's a darker film. It's a more French film, if you like. But look, I do actually still really like this film, or I do sort of have a great fondness and affection for this film. And yeah, look, I was actually really happy to see it again. But looking at it with a critical eye, yeah, there's a lot wrong with it, but it still really speaks to me.
Good stuff. So let's finish this off with our traditional 5-star review system per guest. And traditionally, I'll be starting over here with Andrew.
It's kind of feel like I'm shooting a puppy in a barrel with this film, but it's just it's just asking you to love it. It's such a sweet, innocent little film.
100%.
But at the same time, it's manipulative. And fuck you, Amèlie. So I'm going to give it. I do like French stuff, so I'll give it 2.5.
Okay, good stuff, Matt.
Yeah, I think I would have given this 3.5 when it came out, but I'm just going to give it 2 now. I found it just hasn't aged well for me at all. I don't think I'll ever watch it again. Maybe the nude scenes. We'll see.
Somewhere an accordion player's died.
Yeah,
Wow.
if the internet's broken or something, I don't know. Yeah,
I think we've run out of juice, Penny. I haven't got much to say.
Oh no!
Yeah. What have you got for us,
This
Penny?
is really hard because I think I had such a nostalgic view of this film and I really loved it when it first came out. Watching it again, watching it with a super critical eye, it has changed my opinion somewhat. But look, I'm going to give it 3.75, verging on 4 out of 5. How about that?
Good stuff.
It really.
That's a recommend.
I would recommend it. Like it's I could put this on for my parents and apart from all the you're right. There's quite a bit of filth in it.
Oh, they'll like that.
You're right.
Parents do like that
my
stuff.
parents. They're English.
Well, there you go. Well, they'll hate this then because this is French. This film's got me worried though because I'm thinking like, what's it going to be like revisiting some of these films from that period of time now? Like, I'm worried to go. I love Rushmore, and I'm worried to go back and watch that now if I'm going to come away from that thinking it's a stinker.
But I think you've really summed it up. This film really belongs in a certain period of time, and it's nostalgic, but it doesn't transcend time. It's watching it now. You remember exactly what was going on in your life at that time, how you could relate to it, the whimsy of it. You don't see films like that anymore, which is why it's such an anomaly, not an Amèlie. Do you like that?
No, I got it. Yeah,
I like that.
So it's a joke. It's funny because
it works.
Yeah, thanks.
It's not French though.
It's interesting watching it now. I'd really like to be able to see this film fresh. I'd sort of want to see it with fresh eyes. Like give it to a hipster now, give it to a millennial now, and see what they think of it. And they'd probably rip it to shreds, or they'd love it. Like it could be completely ironic. Yeah,
We've got a hipster in the studio today, and we're going to ask what's his name.
The studio's really crowded today.
It is, and they've been very quiet. I just don't know what happened.
The French guy in particular, he's crying.
Get done. Get done. Where are you?
I'll just do the final word quickly, guys, and we'll wrap it up and get out of here. Amèlie has 2 major assets, okay? Outstanding cinematography and Audrey Tautou, okay? It's pleasant enough, and it also shows a true fantasy version of Paris, but it's not quite enough for me, okay? It even displays a bit of depth that is a hallmark of better romantic and feel-good comedies. However, it's not a great movie, and it's certainly not a masterpiece. Here's a movie that wants people to like it, and that's why I nodded before when you said that, Andrew. It really, really wants people to like it. It seems as if the whole thing was put together just so the audience would think it's the cutest, most charming and heartwarming little flick ever produced. With Amèlie, one either goes with it. My guess is that's the way to enjoy it and what most film fans do, considering the praise it's got. While others may look past the cuteness to sort of ask, what's this really all about? It's sweet, light, and sometimes quite irritating. Its strange adult fable starts out very strong and sort of sinks under the weight of its too-cute-for-words protagonist and her self-made predicament. Amèlie is a strange one indeed. She seems initially one of those wonderful original creations, but as time in the movie marches on, it becomes obvious she's a 12-year-old in a woman's body. Also, like most 12-year-olds, Amèlie pulls pranks and games a little too long, in my opinion, as the film goes on. I really like the travelling gnome and I like the obsessive tape recording guy in the cafe, but then halfway through it loses me completely. I'm not 100% sure why. Maybe it was the overexerted fairy tale style which sort of put me off, and like I said earlier, constantly reading the subtitles in this film was severely distracting. If the film makes moviegoers look at their life in a different light, then good for them. That's great, really. But to me, it looked far too removed from the magic of true life to sort of make the impact it was sort of intended to do. I can see why it's loved and adored and constantly appears in best of lists again and again. It's just not my cup of tea. So 2 stars for Amèlie, and I don't recommend it either. So, no. I just don't think the people need to see it.
Wow.
2017. Yeah, if they haven't seen it yet. So there you go. Yeah.
Fuck you, Amèlie.
Just quickly, I'll just wrap it up, guys. Where to find us, realchat.com.au. Also, Facebook and Twitter at realchat.com.au. Instagram, real_chat_podcast as well. And also Google Plus, Tumblr. And we have a Patreon account as well. You can find the link to that from our website. And iTunes reviews as well, guys. We have got a couple coming through, and I will be making a decision very shortly on our first T-shirt giveaway. Real Chat T-shirt giveaway. So good to see some of the fans have returned, or we've got some new ones coming in as well.
And you're actually sporting one of the T-shirts today.
I am. It's you guys are the first audience to check this out. So,
I like.
You like
a lot. Yeah.
You like a lot.
5 out of 5.
Anyway, guys, thanks very much for coming and discussing Amèlie, and we'll see you all in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks very much.
Au revoir.
I was going to say that.
Damn it.
It's you.
Auf Wiedersehen.